After the wedding bells ring and the dust settles, it is the hope of every couple to have a child. The gleaming joy is evident when the woman finally takes in seed. No one knows what the future holds for the unborn baby, the couple, and family. Some children may be born with some deformities which can be seen right at birth. Others grow to a certain stage before their disabilities become visible. Children with special needs are highly vulnerable to discrimination, abandonment, abuse, exploitation, injury, and death, since they are largely dependent on the support of others to meet their basic needs. According to the Convention of the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, nearly 240 million children in the world today have some form of disability. Children with disabilities are a highly diverse population group. They include children who were born with a genetic condition that affects their physical, mental, and social development, those who sustained a serious injury, nutritional deficiency, or infection that resulted in long-term functional consequences, or those exposed to environmental toxins that resulted in developmental delays or learning disabilities. It is important to note that parents of such children often must brace themselves to take up caregiving as a full-time job. The total neglect and stigma parents of children with special needs face is deafening. Loneliness becomes the order of the day. Many a time, society, family, and spouses often overlook the mental, physical, and emotional needs of these caregivers. With or without support, some parents are putting in their best foot for their children with disabilities. These parents are often unable to tell their heart-wrenching stories of overcoming the stress, societal neglect, and their struggles in automatically becoming caregivers. So, I buckled my shoes, picked my notepad and pen to reveal the sad realities and unspoken conditions of some caregivers in the capital, Accra. After combing every nook and cranny of Accra, I made a stop at Oyibi, where I met with Madam Hannah Waji, a caregiver in Accra. Hannah's story is one of hope, faith, and perseverance. As the saying goes, man proposes, but God disposes. This saying holds truth for Hannah. She had dreamt of a brighter future and created a mental picture of how her ideal family should look like after her wedding. But as fate will have it, life happened. Hannah took in seed, and upon delivery, her first child was born with a developmental condition. According to Hannah, after a series of tests, doctors confirmed that her child, Aram, is suffering from cerebral palsy. This sad reality changed her life entirely. Hannah talks to me about how it all unfolded.
I got to know Aram had a condition called cerebral palsy when she was 9 months old as a baby. So before then, her neck wasn't stabilizing. People were saying, oh, your child's neck is not stable. But I didn't even understand because I was a first-time mom. Till I went for inoculation, 9 months inoculation. I saw another mother with a 9-month-old. And I realized that that mother's child could sit and could stand, but Aram couldn't sit. So that got me thinking. So I went back to the hospital to find out what the problem was, and that was when I was given the diagnosis that she has a condition called cerebral palsy.
As a first-time mother, Hannah had a scanty information on Aram's condition. To her, Aram's condition was more of spiritual than medical. Her assumption on Aram's condition was normal, judging from the societal perspective. In dealing with the reality, Hannah went through the phases of self-denial, rejection, and anger. But after a careful thought of the whole situation, she braced the odds, accepted her fate, and set the ball rolling. She began scouting for every information on cerebral palsy to enable her to provide the necessary care for Aram.
I first said no. I rejected it. I denied, no, it can't be possible that I will have a child who have gone through all the things I need to go through, go to the hospital, take your folic acids, do everything. Possibly something spiritual was happening till I decided to learn about what the cerebral palsy was and to find out what has happened. And in my research, I realized that she got neonatal jaundice. The doctors explained that there's a substance called bilirubin that babies have that needs to be broken down. And hers couldn't break down, so it went to the brain, which injured the brain.
It took Hannah 2 years to finally accept that she has a child suffering from cerebral palsy.
It took me a while to be able to accept it because it came with a lot of hospital visits, therapy, people telling you all kinds of things. There's a lot of advice in the initial stage. Go here, go there, it's spiritual, doctors say that. So many things. So it was very overwhelming, the amount of information I was getting from people. And it took me a while to be able to settle down, to know what to do and how to be able to navigate the situation.
Hannah Waji is a practicing journalist and the online editor with the Ghana News Agency here in Accra. Knowing the stressful and difficult nature of journalism, one would wonder how she has been able to navigate through being a mother with a child with special needs, family, and her career.
The first thing was to try to find a support system. Some systems that could be there for me so that I could live my life. One was my husband, who also is on the journey with me and could stand in for me when I couldn't be there. The others was the parent support group that I built. I looked for parents who had children with cerebral palsy like myself, somewhere ahead of me in the journey, somewhere younger, and we shared a lot of information together. So if I needed something, I could just call a parent. The other thing was to try and build the support system we need, so getting a caregiver, and it's been a journey with caregivers.
According to Hannah, Aram's condition did not only affect her career, but her family was badly hit.
My social life has been greatly affected. I wasn't a socialite, but I like to go to church. I like to meet people and other things. All those things changed because you have to be home with your child. You have to be there to feed her and all other things. With family life, yes, if you don't conscientize your mind that this has become part of your life, it brings a lot of problems between you and your husband and other family members who all have opinions. And they share it because they feel that they have a stake in the child.
Even though there are provisions within the law for inclusive education, putting Aram into school became a struggle as most schools were not ready to accept a child living with disabilities.
Initially, I thought you could just take her to school and anybody will take, but it turned out not to be so because she comes with an extra load of work. So children her age will be going to toilet by themselves or feeding themselves and playing, but she will need someone who attends to her in details, and the schools are not ready to take on that task. One way they do is to pass on extra bills to you, the parents. So for a condition like Aram's one, cerebral palsy, she is intelligent, she understands, and she can hear what you are saying. So if you put her in children who are intellectually disabled, you'll be worrying her. So she needs mainstream education, and yet people are not ready to learn and accept her.
Shockingly, all efforts to enroll Aram in 8 different schools proved futile. They all denied her access, and so I followed her to the 9th school where she has been accepted and fully integrated. I interacted with the headmistress of the school, Madame Letitia Otutua.
When I do records, I put their name there. I have 2 special children. So I was happy that Aram too was here. Sometimes I ask myself, hey, you see the parents are good. So why would they bring Aram here? But when Aram came to this school, I could see that Aram is always happy. How to feed her was a problem, but by God's grace, we can now feed her. When she wants to wee, she will do a sign and put her on the pot.
Hannah has authored 2 books, The Unexpected and Near Divorce. According to her, these books were motivated by her journey with Aram.
I first had the book called Unexpected, which was my journey with Aram. And then I had Near Divorce, which wasn't directly related to Aram, but was related to my family life. Because a lot of things come to play. You have to take a lot of decisions with your husband concerning your children, including Aram. And sometimes there's so much misunderstanding. Let's do this, let's go here, let's not do it. So those things bring a lot of conflict at home. So near divorce, yes, I was near divorce because we were going through, it's not even related with Aram, but then a lot of issues that you needed to unpack as a couple, which you hadn't done. And it's compounded by having a child with disability, the stress that it comes with and everything.
Hannah touched on how she has dealt with stigma from society.
I have been a very stubborn person who doesn't listen to people. So I could be maybe in a public transport with my daughter and I see that someone is really looking. What I'll do is to even say to the person, oh, hold there for me, let me do something, so that I get the person involved. How I fought stigma is to try and create awareness. Let people know that she exists and that there's a need to learn about her or about her condition. But then, yes, stigma exists.
Hannah Awaji says, though Aram is differently abled, she has been a blessing to her. She talks about her high and low moments.
For her to grow to age 10 means that there's hope. They're still alive. There's something she can achieve. She's improving. Because she couldn't sit at all. She couldn't crawl. She couldn't move on the chair. At first, if you put her on the chair the way you push, she will fall off. So for her to get to this level means that she is developing, and it gives me hope for the future. The low moments are the lack of support systems. There are no support systems for you as a parent. So because of children like Aram, a lot of families, otherwise beautiful families, break up because there's too much issues to deal with, too much stress, which they are not able to handle.
From Hannah's residence, I headed to meet another family still within the enclave. Meet 45-year-old Michael Hagbe. Michael is a husband to Madame Vida Tosu. Life was beautiful until the birth of their first child. Since then, it has been pain and agony for the past 16 years. Their story of pain began when their only child, Precious, was born with a developmental condition. Now 14 years old, Precious is still unable to sit on her own, talk, or even walk. This means Precious needs someone to watch over her with every second that passes by. Fortunately for Precious, her parents are giving her care with the little they have. For the past 14 years, Mr. Michael Hagbe has been moving from one hospital to the other, but doctors are still unable to detect the actual medical condition his daughter is suffering from. According to him, doctors suspect Precious may possibly have cerebral palsy.
Time Medina Alpha Hospital.
I was told my child did not cry during delivery. We were asked to go to the Ridge Hospital, where she was put into an incubator. We were discharged after some few weeks, but I later saw some changes in her development and we went back to the hospital to seek the doctor's advice.
So we sent her back to Ridge Hospital and the doctor refers to Kolebu.
Mr. Hagbe was a wood carver with a wood processing company but lost his job some few months after his marriage ceremony. Since then, life has been difficult for them. They live in this uncompleted building. Poverty is now the order of the day since he is unable to work. Michael often takes up the caregiving duties to give his wife a breathing space. He says the little money they get is often spent on the medication and food for Precious. The family sometimes sleeps on an empty stomach.
Financially, we are struggling. How to feed my daughter is a challenge. Her diet is different from ours, which makes it difficult to sometimes provide for her.
Stigmatization is one of the battles Michael is faced with on a daily basis. He recounts the continuous pressure from family and friends on ending their daughter's life to enable them to live their lives fully again.
There was a time we were at a compound house at the other house. As a certain lady told me that Onimbebia, I said no.
I was told of a place where we can take my child to be killed, but I refuse because I really love my daughter.
Monkey at the cage, and you seek out to Kwedu, among 70. How much more may blood?
Michael's show of love towards his daughter, even with her condition, is worth emulating. Though life has been draining over the years, he is not ready to throw in the towel. He is, however, hopeful that things will change for the better with time.
The only thing me it's not easy.
I do everything for my child, even though it hasn't been easy. I remember when my neighbors told me my child cannot call me daddy. That statement alone hurts me.
Yeah, so. There was a time we were in a compound house. A tenant can insult you. Wow, want to be for daddy. You.
Mr. Hagbe's lowest moment has been the numerous times his wife has contemplated suicide due to pressure from society and hardship at home.
One day I could remember, a friend me another to that time I made the omo
My wife nearly committed suicide because of our girl's condition, but I encourage her. I always take care of the girl to release her from distress.
His only prayer is to get a decent job to do to support his family.
By now, small car taxi up and down.
I wish I have a taxi to work to enable me to take care of her well. Getting a job has been difficult.
Ghana koye say adwuma poti a obeye se say a problem.
After talking to Michael, I then engaged Madame Vida Tosu in a conversation. All I saw was a broken woman who is almost giving up on life. Her inability to work, to fend for self and family due to her daughter's condition is eating her joy away gradually. Vida reveals her daily struggles in getting a vehicle to send her daughter for their routine medical checks. She said this single act can be frustrating, depressing, and financially draining. She explained that their family's survival is hinged on her walking miles to cut firewood to sell anytime her husband takes over the caregiving job.
I was an okra seller at Medina Market, but now I am jobless because of my daughter. For now, I cut firewood to sell.
According to her, becoming strong is no longer on the table for discussion. Her lowest moment is seeing Precious's condition getting worse by day. She draws tears. Vida Tosu has a wish.
I need a refrigerator to enable me sell water and drinks at home. This will help me cater for Precious.
To understand Aram and Precious's condition and how their parents can help in their well-being, I headed to the Greater Accra Regional Hospital where I met with Dr. Yvonne Brew, a pediatrician.
Cerebral palsy is injury to the developing brain. So it means that, and then you see the sequelae later on. So the injury occurs maybe during pregnancy or during birth or within the first 2 to 3 years of life. The brain gets injured, and that can be caused by an infection, that can be caused by lack of oxygen, bleeding, malformations in the brain or genetic conditions, or came in preterm, prematurity. Once there's an injury to developing brain, and then we start to see the effect as the child is growing, then we term cerebral palsy.
She educated me on how some developmental illnesses in children began.
A human being is a very complex being, and so when we are having a child, there are a lot of factors coming in to make one child, and so depending on which one is stronger or which one is weaker, we can have issues developing right from where the egg and the sperm meet, and then it goes on from that first week of pregnancy to even the 6 weeks. If the mother gets an illness, the mother doesn't take her folic acid or has some conditions. So right from that stage, developmentally, a child can have issues, and that can continue throughout pregnancy.
Dr. Brew explained that therapy is the mainstay for managing and caring for children with disabilities. She touched on the various therapies a child with developmental issues must go through.
Therapy is the mainstay of management of children, in fact, with all developmental disorders, and especially cerebral palsy. And so that is not done by the doctor. So it's important to know that cerebral palsy is managed by a big team. And a very important part of that team is we need physiotherapists. So right at a very early age, few weeks of life, we send them to see the physiotherapist. The physiotherapist helps them develop their muscle tone properly. And then we have the occupational therapist who helps the child learn how to put the hand in the mouth, play with the hand, use the hand, hold objects, and things like that.
According to Dr. Brew, the cost of these therapies is very expensive and not covered by the National Health Insurance Scheme, hence leaving huge financial burden on caregivers. She explained that the financial burden often lead to parents skipping routine medical reviews, which can have dire consequences on the child.
The child needs therapy.
therapy is not covered under National Health Insurance in any form if you have cerebral palsy. It's not covered. So the parents will have to pay for all therapies requested. If you need speech therapy, if you need physiotherapy, if you need occupational therapy, you need to pay cash for them because it's not recognized under health insurance. If a child does not respond to the spiritual treatment or management as prescribed, the next thing is then do away with the child. And so the parents are under a lot of pressure to throw the child back into the river where the child came from or to give something to kill the child. Now, the parents need to have all that support when they come to the hospital that my child will be provided for. That support is not there.
Aside the medical financial burden parents with differently abled children face, they also go through serious emotional and psychological torture. In finding answers to how these parents and caregivers can be supported, I made a stop at the Department of Psychology at the University of Ghana, Legon, and met with Professor Adote Anum.
The provision of the physical care itself many times can be difficult. It takes an extra time to get ready to go for any event. It means you will arrive at that event late. It means that getting in and out of a car or a trotro or something always will be a challenge. So the burden is heightened just by having a child with special needs. So all these are stressful events that causes parents or caregivers to need psychological support.
Professor Anum touched on the various forms of psychological needs parents raising children with disabilities should be given.
Psychological support is supposed to provide parents with extra resources. They provide parents with, for them to identify their inner strength, some strengths they didn't know they have, that helps them cope with these situations. So generally, when we talk about support, psychological services will be to improve the parents or the caregivers' knowledge and expertise in dealing with the child and with dealing with their own emotional health.
He explained that such caregivers go through stress on a daily basis raising these children. He revealed that unmanaged stress can have damaging effects on the affected child and the entire family. He added that it is therefore imperative to provide stress management activities for these caregivers.
I don't think there's an easy way out. But I think it's important for parents or caregivers to look for the right resources, look for the right support.
Most parents with children with disabilities often are unable to work because of their dedication to providing the needed care for their children. Parents like Hannah Awaji and Michael Hagbe are of the view that having proper educational systems integrating children with special needs will go a long way to ease their burden. I spoke with Madam Marian Baba Halaji, an educationist and the co-director of Abofra World School.
To have an inclusive school, the environment counts, one. Let's say if the child is physically challenged, let's say in a wheelchair and all that, the child will need accessibility. We also need, so many other things in the environment, from the audiovisuals to the physical things, the facilities, washrooms, even the space. Just for the fact that you have children with different needs means that you have to provide an environment, a system with different opportunities to every child. You see, so it makes it challenging, it makes it difficult, but then you have to find a way around it. And so we come to the consensus of sharing that responsibility with our parents, and sometimes other organizations also come in to support.
Marian explained that Ghana has made strides so far as caregiving is concerned. However, there is still a huge gap to be covered to enable Ghana to meet international standards.
Caregiving to children and children with disabilities as a nation, mean, it's okay, but like we write in the reports, or we used to write in reports, there's more room for improvement. We shouldn't just put together the policies, but even ways of implementation, even with the schools, with hospitals, with the welfare institutions. We have to go the extra mile.
In Ghana, most parents often assume the role of caregivers without any form of training or assistance. This, according to experts, is an error and should not be encouraged.
Caregiving is decent work that we need to pay attention to and encourage people to take it up as a profession. But we haven't done that. It becomes a big burden on families. Your options as a parent is very limited. You either have to stop working and stay home with your child, which makes you, for me, will make me very depressed and everything. Or you continue working at the risk of opening up your homes to take strangers who come in. You don't know them, sometimes no form of training, you have to train and all those things. So it's something we need to pay attention to.
Not having a center with trained resource persons means that, one, there's a likelihood of abuse, right? And we, teachers or caregivers at those places might be doing things they may not even know it's abusive or it's not right.
Government needs to come out clearly on what should be done if a child is determined to have a disability. It's the government's responsibility to determine how the child develops, not the parents, because the parents are overwhelmed. They can't work, they can't go anywhere. Sometimes parents have to lock children up in the room to just go to the markets. This is distressing.
According to the World Health Organization, the availability of appropriate support systems for caregivers enables them to perform their respective roles effectively. It is for this reason advocates are calling for the provision of information, financial support, encouraging respite care, and training programs for caregivers. They believe this will go a long way to equip them to overcome the many challenges associated with caregiving.
You have a child with special needs. It goes beyond the health sector. You need the social services. So in best practices, you'll be assigned a social worker who will coordinate all these services for you and make sure you get the appropriate counseling. Every once in a while, we get our patients, mother calls and says, "Oh, doctor, your child is gone." No, it means they've seen the child off. And it's so common and it's sad because we need children who are different to make the world go. You learn a lot of patience if you are dealing with children with disability.
In our environment, you often hear that someone says, "Oh, I have this child with this condition," but you say, "Oh, you have to relocate to. If you go to another country, your child will become an expert in this," and because there are opportunities. If you have a disability, it doesn't mean you can't work. If you have a disability, it doesn't mean you will not be able to go to school. And they have been able to get so many experts with different intellects and high intellectuals from giving them kids with disabilities the opportunity to learn and to be the best version of themselves.
Disability advocates say social support is an important approach to improve the psychological health status and promote positive coping for caregivers of children with special needs.
Elsewhere, they have programs in place. So they have what they call day programs. They have boarding programs and stuff like that. That takes care of you in totality as a parent. So you could put your child, like if I want to go to work, I can just put my child in a facility. I know the child is taken care of. She gets a full complement of all the rehabilitation things she needs. And I come back and pick my child, even if it's for a fee. But we haven't done that as a country.
If you are in the social services, what is your role if a child is born with disability? If you are in the education sector, if you're in the health sector, it should be very clear. Then the parent is not overwhelmed. In other places, and it is practiced worldwide, if the parents are overwhelmed, they bring the child to government. Government keeps the child for a few weeks, pays for the parents to go for a holiday so that the parents can be relieved. You know, it's very important to support the parents.
So what can Ghana do differently?
One of the things we need to do is to create awareness. Awareness in terms of how disabilities come about, awareness in terms of the nature of disability, that there are different types, the different levels of abilities. We need to let people understand that given the proper care, some children will do okay. Then they will not learn and behave just like other children, but they will do okay given the proper care.
I believe we're all aware that in countries like Canada, in the United States of America, in the UK, some families are entitled to stipends to even help keep the children well. They are given the opportunities to take them to certain institutions to receive therapies here and there and all that. I don't even think these countries necessarily have a solution to their problem, but at least they've made life a little easier or relieved made the burden a little lighter for families and for the children. We can also start from somewhere, but we need to have the conversation.
Experts believe early family intervention improves perceived spousal emotional support for caregivers of children with disabilities. They say interventions for caregivers at an early stage also have positive implications for promoting adaptation, reducing threats, increasing confidence, reducing emotional distress, anxiety, and depression. Health experts believe that capturing the treatment for children with special needs under the NHIS will also be an important step in the provision of quality health for children with disabilities in Ghana. Also, there are calls for government to make available the necessary technology or tools in various health facilities for easy access to caregivers in the country.